Welcome to the Big Success Show. Today, we're reflecting on 1,000 podcast episodes. Brought to you by FinancialFreedomTool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Tips to be your best with the professor and Mary-Lynn for your big success.
So today, this is our 1,000th episode of the Big Success Show.
Woohoo! Yeah!
I mean, you know, it's so funny because sometimes I'll look back at a piece of content and forget that we did it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll be reading it and it's like, yeah, that's a pretty good point. Well, that's our point.
Well, in preparing for this show, Libsyn has been our podcast host for all of these years, and we thank them so much. But we opened it up and looked way back. I don't know. There's like 1,000 pages practically. And you're looking back at the collection of them all, and we would listen to some of the shows we did from the beginning to the end, and it is hard to keep them all in mind and to remember all the things that we've covered, but it's fantastic, and we're just so thrilled that we get to keep doing this.
And I'm George Kruger, also known as the Professor.
And I'm Mary-Lynn, and that's also fun too, just to see how the podcast has and our branding for the podcast has kind of grown, because we didn't have the Professor and Mary-Lynn at the start. That's kind of something that's evolved with our coach, Kipper McGee.
So you're saying we graduated?
Yeah. Well, it's just like any brand. We do coaching. It's like any brand. You evolve, you grow, and that's what we've been able to do with Big Success. So anyway, today we are celebrating. We're reflecting on 1,000 podcast episodes.
I like the way you say that, Marilyn. 1,000.
1,000.
It's not 1,000. It's 1,000.
In this show, we're going to share our most popular show. We'll share some fun themes, standout interviews, and so much more.
So our most popular show, and actually I think this surprised both of us.
Yeah.
When we really looked back on it. So our most popular show so far is called 5 Ways to Stop Racing in Circles. Now,
this is a show where we used authentic audio that we recorded during time trials at the Indy 500.
I just love the cars zooming by, Mary-Lynn.
Well, I mean, we were right there.
We were.
And I had my little handheld recorder because I thought this would be really cool for the podcast.
Well, and you know what I remember most about that day, though? Remember you sat on the wall and you got excited about something and you kind of slipped, and fortunately you didn't hurt yourself.
I slid backwards toward the track. Everybody was like reaching toward me.
See, it's something I would expect myself to do, but in this particular case, you actually did it.
One could say I risked my life for that audio.
There you go.
But listen as we explain how being at the racetrack helped us come up with a show idea.
The Big Success Show with George and Mary-Lynn.
Oi, George, can you believe we're here at the Indy 500?
Oh, man, this is awesome. The only thing is, Mary-Lynn, these guys drive like you, fast.
No, it's more like you trying to blow through a yellow light.
Oh, I see.
Hey, George, watching these guys go around in circles and circles and circles, it's giving me a show idea.
It is? What's that show idea?
Well, you can't go around in circles in life to get anywhere, can you?
That's probably true. You just end up back at the same point.
And that's what our show's about today, how to get outside the circle. Check it out at Big Success, that's big with 2 G's, success.com.
Tune into the Big Success Show. It's better than all the other crap you have to listen to.
Mary-Lynn, I can't believe how fast we talked.
We did talk pretty fast. We were at the Indy 500, right? And everything's going fast.
Well, and I know we're partial, but I agree our podcast is better than most of the crap you have to listen to. Not necessarily fellow podcasters, but, there is a lot of crap out there.
Well, in that particular show, we debunk the idea that working harder will get you to the finish line faster.
Man, my neck's getting sore from watching these cars go by.
Yeah.
So fast, Well, we also shared in this episode a great quote by Barbara Scher. And the quote is this: real obstacles don't take you in circles. They can be overcome. Invented ones are like a maze.
Ooh, that's a good one. Find a link to our most popular show in this podcast episode's show notes.
So now, over the years, over the course of 1,000 podcast episodes... Sorry, Mary-Lynn, you got me hooked on it now. We've had some fun creating theme shows.
Yeah. During my radio days.
And may I say, Mary-Lynn, this is all you. You are the audio master, and some of the stuff you come up with, I just can't believe.
Well, I appreciate that. And look, I learned audio production from some super creative and talented people. So I'm so thankful for them and all the hours that I spent in the production room learning from them. There's something magical about taking a story and have it come alive with audio effects that allows your imagination and your mind to visualize the scenario.
And Mary-Lynn calls this theater of the mind.
Oh, yes.
So we did a number of these theater of the mind shows, and this it's our favorite. It's called You Can Always Bet on the Winner of This Race. And we love to watch the Kentucky Derby each year. And one year, we got the inclination, the crazy idea, you might say, to create our own horse race.
I remember us talking about this, like, why don't we create, something that revolves around success in life?
Exactly. And so we created the Big Derby and the race to big success. Now, after writing the concept, we enlisted the help of a few of our friends.
Yeah, I reached out to an old radio colleague. He was a morning show partner of mine who is a horse race enthusiast. And so once we'd written this script, we ran it past him to make sure that we were accurate when it comes to horse race terms and all of that kind of stuff.
And then we reached out to our talented friend, and may I say one of our best friends, Jerome,
yes,
to call the race.
And then I went to work adding the sounds and putting it all together, and here's how it all came together.
And it's race time.
Yes, it is. So let's go upstairs to Charlie Horse for the call of the first Big Derby. Charlie.
Thanks, George and Mary-Lynn. We are ready for the start. And they're off in the Big Derby. Fast start for Uninformed Optimism. Wait a minute, fear of failure hasn't left the gate. His jockey giving him everything he's got, but fear of failure won't budge. It's Uninformed Optimism way out in front, wasting no time, running too wide. It's Stumbling Block and Consistent Delivery. Persistence off to a slow start is gaining ground. Into the first turn, it's Uninformed Optimism, still setting the pace. Stumbling Block up on the far side. Consistent Delivery in third, Persistence in fourth toward the inside. Stumbling Block makes a move on the outside as they approach the backstretch. It's Uninformed Optimism and Stumbling Block side by side. Consistent Delivery 2 lengths back. Persistence still trailing. In the backstretch, running 3 wide. Uninformed Optimism followed closely by Stumbling Block and Consistent Delivery. As close as can be. Oh, Uninformed Optimism bumped by Stumbling Block surrenders the lead. In the far turn, it's Stumbling Block with Consistent Delivery close behind. Uninformed Optimism still in third, seems to be fading. Now on the far turn, Persistence advancing quickly on the inside. Goes right by Uninformed Optimism. Consistent Delivery moving on Stumbling Block as we enter the home stretch. Persistence accelerating rapidly. Uninformed Optimism falling farther and farther behind. Here we go, kicking into high gear in the stretch. Stumbling Block, Consistent Delivery, followed by Persistence on the inside. Persistence is making his move, neck and neck with Consistent Delivery. Stumbling Block still holding the edge. It's Persistence rallying on the rail. Stumbling Block and Consistent Delivery on the outside. Consistent Delivery and Persistence past Stumbling Block, one on each side. Now it's Consistent Delivery and Persistence fighting for the lead. Stumbling Block trying to hold. The jockeys rousing their horses. It's going to be close. They're neck and neck. Here we go at the finish. It's Persistence by a nose. What a spectacular finish. Persistence impressively wins the Big Derby to remain undefeated. Consistent Delivery in second, and Stumbling Block, as always, close by, finished third.
That's my favorite race ever, Mary-Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, I can hear it over and over and over again. So, it seems like we kind of tease this show like about once a year around Derby time, one of the big three.
So, anyway, that was truly a masterpiece in our collection of 1,000 podcast episodes.
Now, another fun theme show we did was called Mingle Bells. Not Jingle Bells, Mingle Bells.
But, of course, you have to have the Jingle Bells.
Yes.
Right? And this was our 15th podcast episode, number 15.
And so this show was all about the season for parties, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. These were handy networking tips to help you mingle your way through your holiday parties.
And one of the mingle tips was find something in common.
Yeah, so when you're mingling with people at a party, find out how they know the host. It's a great question to ask. It's a natural question to ask, right? And this is great because their answer is going to give you a clue to other people, places, or things that you have in common with that person you just met.
That is such a good one. You can listen to all the tips just in time for your holiday parties in the Mingle Bells show. Find a link to it in this podcast episode's show notes. Another creative theme show that we did was called fumble forward.
Now, we've heard that phrase before, but we weren't aware of this. Maybe you aren't either. But this show is about one of the most famous fumbles that ever occurred in the history of the NFL. It happened on September 10th, 1978, way before we ever started the Big Success Show.
Yes.
And it's a game between the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers, and it's become known, this fumble's become known as the Holy Roller.
I love that name. Yes. And since we couldn't get clearance from the NFL
of course
to
not.
play the actual clip, even though
buggers.
I hear they're big fans of the Big Success Show, we attempted to do a recreation of that broadcast. Take a listen.
Here we are, 10 seconds left in the game. The Chargers lead 20-14. The Raiders have the ball on what may be their last snap. They're on the Chargers' 14-yard line. Stabler takes the snap. He's dropping back to pass.
Look out, Kenny. Here comes Lowe. He's putting the pressure on Stabler.
Stabler's going down. He's on the 24-yard line. Oh, but wait.
The ball is loose. He's fumbled the ball. It's rolling forward. It's a mad dash for the ball near the Chargers' 12-yard line.
Banaszak's trying to scoop it up. Oh, no, he lost his footing.
Now he's fumbled. The ball's still rolling.
Casper is trying to grab it. He can't get his hands on it. Oh, he kicks it into the end zone.
No one has possession yet. Time is running out. The ball is bouncing around.
Casper is there. He jumps on the ball. Touchdown, Raiders!
Oh, I can't believe what I just saw. Neither can the crowd. 52,000 people all on their feet, stunned.
Well, there you have it. And just so you know, the Raiders went on to win the game on a fumble.
Unbelievable. What a great story for us to keep in mind for our own lives.
Yeah, don't give up if you fumble the ball. Just fumble forward to the end zone for your big success.
Over the course of 1,000 podcast episodes, we've interviewed a lot of smart people.
Yes, we have. Among them, Bob Proctor, one of the pioneers of personal development. Mary-Lynn, I have to say, I don't know, the wealth of that man is, the wealth of wisdom of that man is just amazing to me. You could just say, with every question we asked him, I was just amazed at how deep he had the ability to go. And you could tell we were still just skimming the surface of what he knows. But in case you're not familiar with him, he's one of the main people behind the law of attraction. And we challenged him on that during our interview.
And I think here's a misunderstanding of the law of attraction, because a lot of people seem to think that they only need to conceive it and believe it. Yet here we are early in your book, and you're talking about action. Can you explain that more?
Yeah, well, I believe the secret led some of us astray in that it left the idea that you just have to want it. You've got to go beyond wanting it. Want is something in your conscious mind. Your belief is in your conscious mind. But your subconscious is programmed. And if you don't change that programming, nothing happens. You've got to get the want deeply embedded in your subconscious mind. You've got to get very emotionally involved with it, or you'll never move into action on it.
Another great person that we talked to is Jean Chatzky. She's the financial expert on NBC's Today, who says that we shouldn't feel guilty about spending.
No, we're not. We say in my house, this is why we work, right? We all work because there are things that we need, but we all work because there are things that we either want to do or want to have, and nobody should make us feel guilty about that. As long as you are not sabotaging your current life or your future with your spending, then this is your prerogative.
We also talked with the amazing Bob Burg, author and authority on selling. Bob, what's the first law of stratospheric success?
Well, the first law is the law of value.
Seth Godin, international best-selling author.
At the end of the book, you talk about how some people are probably going to rip on you as far as the style of your book and the way you've written this book. Well, George and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It's such an easy read, and it flows so nicely. I mean, what's the problem with it?
Well, the problem with it is, first of all, thank you. That was very nice of you. The problem with it is I don't tell you what to do tomorrow. I don't say, if you're a dummy, here are the 12 steps. Mm-hmm. I don't give you a checklist. I don't give you a list of tactics or tools or copy that you can lift and use for your own. That part of the essence of being a leader is you're going to have to lead differently than the guy before you. Part of the essence of being a leader is that every tribe demands its own style of leader. And no one else can tell you how to do that. You've got to figure it out. And that's frustrating for some people.
Steve Farber, author and leadership expert.
But wait, Steve, there's no crying in baseball. There's no love in business.
How can you expect your customers to love doing business with you if you don't love the business yourself first?
We talked with Aaron Lowry, the broke millennial, who told us you don't have to be a math genius to understand investing.
I even kind of tell a little jokey story at the beginning of that chapter you mentioned about the terms, where I have this very vivid memory of sitting in algebra class and just having no clue what was going on because I didn't know the language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you throw out a term like coefficient, and I was like, I don't know what that means. So I feel like investing is exactly the same. And you don't need to know complicated theories. You don't have to be in the nitty-gritty and the weeds of all of that to have a basic understanding.
Chris Brogan, best-selling author, speaker, and social media guru.
Well, how do you stand out? I mean, this is unique service proposition, all those things that you've heard about value proposition. How do you stand out, or how do you make the idea something different? How do you make people actually see you as something interesting or something unique?
Our 600th podcast episode was with Jim Bouchard, martial arts Hall of Famer, author, and speaker.
What it is this. Leadership is important at all levels. Leadership on the front line like that, you mentioned a bookkeeper, could be a janitor, could be the clerk at a burger joint. It's a matter of learning your craft, learning your trade, learning the traits that make that a special job, really, and all jobs are special.
Carol Roth, best-selling author, TV personality, business owner. She told us about her spinach in your teeth philosophy.
Yeah, spinach in your teeth, booger hanging from your nose, toilet paper coming out the back of your pants, whatever it is. I don't understand the people who will stare at their friends and not tell them, because I know it's a slightly uncomfortable conversation, but to let something like that go and let the person not address the issue and move on, I do not think is very nice. So I'm very straightforward, and if you have a little something, no big deal. We'll just take care of it and we'll move on with our lives.
And New York Times best-selling author on personal finance, David Bach. Now, George, you did something to David. What did you do?
Well, I don't know if I can talk about it here. But actually, during our interview, talking to him about his wonderful book, The Latte Factor, I made this observation that we tend to compartmentalize our lives, and then I asked him if he's trying to get us to think more holistically.
Well, and okay, what you just said just gave me chills. Like, I wish you could see me because I've got hair standing up on my arms. What the financial service industry, I think, has done wrong is that in focusing people so much on retirement, that people, when they're in their 20s or their 30s or sometimes even in their 40s, retirement is so far off, they can't connect to it. And so they lose exactly what you just said. We lose touch with, why am I putting this money away? Like, how is it going to even help me? Like, who knows if I'll be alive in 20 or 30 or 40 years? And what I've been focusing on is teaching people, like, money is not just going into retirement accounts. It should be going into a dream account, right? Like, you need to be clear on what it means for you today to live a rich life. It's actually not about finishing rich. It's about living rich.
Wait, and that's just the tip of the iceberg with the interviews that we've done over the course of 1,000 podcast episodes.
1,000 podcasts.
We link to each of the ones that we've mentioned here today in the show notes with today's show.
Now, when we think back over 1,000 podcast episodes.
1,000!
You got me saying it, Mary-Lynn. It's hard for us to pick a favorite, but actually we each did.
Yes.
So Mary-Lynn, what's your favorite?
It's just like when somebody says, what's your favorite song? And you've got like 10 of them. You've got to choose one. It's so hard to do. But my favorite podcast episode is the one we did for our 10th anniversary of Big Success. We decided to share 10 great success quotes, but to read them on helium. And I know, wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall when we come up with these ideas? Here's just
maybe the helium has caused some brain damage, Mary-Lynn. I don't know.
I know.
It's possible.
Here's just a few of the quotes.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning.
What would you attempt to do if you knew you would not fail?
You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it.
We cannot do everything at once, but we can do something at once.
Oh boy, that was so much fun. But we did all the quotes on helium as both a podcast and a video, and you can find the links to both in today's show notes.
Now, my favorite show is about the benefit of, this may surprise you, it's about the benefit of not listening.
What did you say?
You heard me, Mary-Lynn. Yes, exactly. Okay, so it's about the benefits of not listening, and here's the clip. Did someone forget to tell Bethany Hamilton that surfers need 2 arms?
While surfing at the age of 13, a 14-foot tiger shark bit off her left arm, yet she still became, and still is, an award-winning professional surfer.
Did someone forget to tell J.K. Rowling that a divorced mother with no money couldn't become a big success?
You know the rest of her story. She's the first author to become a billionaire.
We'll bet you that someone did tell each and every one of these people not to proceed.
Someone reminded them of the reason why they shouldn't do it.
Someone told them that they would fail if they tried.
But they didn't listen. If they had, we wouldn't be talking about them.
So don't let people stop you from pursuing your passion, the passion which will take you to big success. Man, what a powerful message it is to think about not listening. We always are told we need to listen. But sometimes it does pay to not listen.
Well, we did that with our podcast.
Exactly. The Big Success Show, right? We had all these people who said, video, podcasting is dead. And what did we do? We decided to go to audio. Play to our strengths.
We said, let's stick with podcasting. We didn't listen. We didn't listen to what they said. 1,000 times we didn't listen.
Well, at least we're good at something, Mary-Lynn.
Well, you can find the link to both of our favorite podcast episodes in today's show notes.
And we're going to wrap up our show today with a special quote. And I will tell you, this is definitely kind of together we chose this as our favorite. And 1,000 episodes from now, I think we're going to still say this is our favorite.
Right. Not just a special quote, but a special moment. And we've shared a lot of inspirational quotes over the course of 1,000 podcast episodes. And you can find a whole list of them on our Big Quotes page at bigsuccess.com.
But our favorite quote of all aired way back in podcast episode number 2. Number 2. That's right.
Wow.
And our amazingly talented friend, one of our best friends, Jerome, who you also heard calling the Big Derby earlier.
Yes.
Well, he went all out reading a quote from the legendary baseball player, George Moriarty.
Jerome does fantastic impersonations.
Yes, he does.
And so we asked him to do this quote for us in the voice of Ted Knight from the movie Caddyshack.
Who can ask more of a man than giving all within his span? Giving all, it seems to me, is not so far from victory.
I love that. And that's going to be rolling around in my head all day. It's like an earworm. I love that. Well, it is hard to reflect on 1,000 podcast episodes in just one podcast episode, but I think that we've done a pretty good job here. George, what do you think?
I'll give you a pat on the back, Mary-Lynn. But here's the thing we got to say before we go. We just thank you so very, very, very much from the bottom of our hearts for listening, for engaging with us, for sending us emails, for
leaving
encouraging
reviews,
us along the ways.
For downloading our podcast episodes. Oh my gosh. And we hope that you'll keep listening as we start working toward the next 1,000 shows.
And if you haven't subscribe to our show. You can find us all over wherever the internet appears.
Yes. Wherever. If there's a podcast app, we're in there. That's all there is to it. And until next time,
here's to your big success.
Tips to be your best with the Professor and Mary-Lynn for your big success.
Find Big Success at BIGGsuccess.com.